Thank you very much. I'm wondering why you guys are sitting at the back in the dark. Are you afraid of being asked questions? Are you afraid of being asked questions? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I would like at least guys to fill in these ones, because us guys will be enjoying ourselves. I want to make sure you guys are part of the conversation, for real. I suppose, you know, I'll start on my immediate right. No, that's bad manners. I'll start with Jess. You can see how she's seated. She's right at the center. Jessica, actually, I shouldn't introduce you. Eh? You'll introduce yourself. Yeah. In fact, I'll just mention the names so that you guys have an idea. So there's Jess, or Jessica, there's Fady, Faizal, and Conrad. Kosawa? You okay? So I'll get right into it. How many people are below 24 years old? Below 25? Okay. Between 25 and 30? Wachani kuogopa. 30 and 35? Over 35? Over 40?
Hey, boss, what
No. I need to figure out where the old tech starts. You know, if I start saying, oh, mainframe, oh, IBM, some guys will get lost. It's not fair. So basically then we are going to talk about old tech. And old tech here, we are going to concentrate more on the emergence of the internet and how it affected the rest of us, and how it affected everything else. Everything from computers to businesses like advertising, to how you guys exploded into the mobile. But just to allow everybody to get a sense of where we are, I'll ask Faizal how he got into tech. Faizal, how did you get into tech as work? You know, there's tech at home, ka computer, nini, Komodo, wachana na hizo. Tech as work.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. Hi, guys. I got into tech not out of passion. It was not my plan. I actually was interested in studying architecture. And in my fourth form, my brother was studying electronic engineering. During his holidays, he came and described to me whatever he was studying. And at that time, they were doing a course on PLC, programmable logic controllers, industrial controllers, ICs. And he was describing to me this concept of programming. And the whole construct of being able to instruct a computer to do stuff was just crazy. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to do architecture, I'm going to do this crazy thing. So that led me to study computer science. And yeah, I mean, that was my first stint at technology. I mean, prior to that, I'd only played with Photoshop, I think. I was not, at that time, I think IT studies had just been introduced in high school, probably, but I'd not been one of the guys who had taken. So my first line of code was actually at campus. Unlike the guys who say I started coding at 11 or whatever it is. Yeah. Is that, do I go deeper or?
No, that's good enough. Can I hazard to ask what year that was?
Which year was what?
When you started coding at campus?
Okay, my first year of writing, my first line of code is in 2000, so 18 years ago.
Below 25 minus 18? This is how long? Conrad, when did you touch code? When did you say that this is the thing for your future?
Like Faizal here, I also struggled to know what to do with my life. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be a priest. I wanted to be a computer scientist. Yes. And fate led me here. So I think the first code I wrote before the millennium bug. So those who don't understand what that is, that tells you a lot. When I was in Form 3, we did a website for a company called Kenya Web. That was the peoples of Kenya. So, Bantus, Nilotes, and Kushites. And I remember we even appeared on Club Kiboko. But those who remember Club Kiboko is... So I was there very proudly with Lona Irungu. And then I said that what did I say? That the Kalenjin were Bantus or something like that. And at the time, I didn't realize. So they asked me, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I've been working on this site for months. I'll take it to the bank. But now later, when it dawned on me, actually, that may not be true. But that was the first code I wrote, and it's been, depending how you look at it, downhill or uphill ever since.
The reference Y2K. It was a bug. Anybody has an idea why there was a bug called Y2K? Yes, Stephen, yes.
Those who are below 40, please. Welcome to the chance.
Basically, the date was 2 digits. So at 99, it would run out. So they wouldn't go to 2000. So that's the problem we had, that all the programs that were written with a date of only 2 digits had a problem. Nowadays, you have a date of 4 digits. It's because of that bug. Planes were meant to fall from the sky, but none did. But you can hear from Conrad's story how far he goes. Fady. Fady is not a coder, but there's something he did that the rest of us guys had to bow down. Please.
I don't know what Jimmy is talking about. How do you...
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
Nowadays they have buttons. Okay. So just so you guys know, Y2K. When Y2K was imminent, around November 1999, there were sales on flash disks, not flash disks, floppy disks. So we could all back up our stuff. And all 4 or 5 megabytes of our entire collection of work could be backed up on 3 or 4 floppy disks. So just to give you the reality of what storage capacity was back then, and how much work we amassed over a few years of coding and design and that kind of thing. That was the interest. My journey started, I think, around Conrad's time as well. Sounds like an epoch. Around 1998, 99, around my first year of campus, I was studying civil engineering, but there were these things called websites, which were just fascinating. And I guess the curious beings that we are, we're always interested to find out how are these things made. So you could right-click, view source, understand how these things put together, and that's how we start experimenting and getting into that world.
Fady became famous for having developed his civil engineering project in Flash. I hope you guys are understanding how serious that is. It was so good, he got mentioned by the godfathers of Flash then, a guy called Joshua Davis. I think that for us was, Allah, a Kenyan has been recognized for doing Flash. And at that point, anybody remember Macromedia Flash? Okay, yeah, at least. There was a time that they were competing seriously with Adobe. And Macromedia was then doing Flash. And at that time, the web would allow, if you were coding HTML, it was static. And to be able to have dynamic stuff, you had to code either in Flash or Java applets. Anybody do Java now? Java applets? This technology has come and gone. You know, it has come and gone. And at that point, it became interesting because JavaScript was just beginning. Netscape 1.0 was, what, 1994? And that's when, JavaScript started happening. And then for HTML to become dynamic, we had something called Dhtml. Anybody who tackled Dhtml? Okay. This is how now Dhtml the introduction of JavaScript into HTML, which of course nowadays you take it for granted. Before there was no such thing. When you coded HTML, everything was static. And there are some tags that have disappeared completely. Tags like font. There's one that was called, there's one called blink. If you wanted font to blink, put a blink tag. Maki. Yeah, so a lot of things that now seem to be obvious were not obvious then. There were no Visual Studio codes. Conrad, what did you use to code in, by the way?
It depends on what language you're writing code in. It was Pascal, it was C. Hi, Fortran, that's for you guys.
Well, just to date myself, at main campus we did Fortran and COBOL. I'm even... The first time I came across, it was the same time, about 98 is when we went to Word Perfect. Windows 95 had just come out. It was completely new. Anybody born after Windows 95? Hands up. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
It's fine.
Officially, you're a digital native. Officially. You're not an analog person. Okay? So at that point, the year 2000, we get America Online, Africa Online, 3 Mice. This is where Fady, Faizal, this is where they connect. How was 3 Mice? You know, this is what used to happen. When you guys chase the clients with your high prices, they would come to us. And we would solve their problems and you know, pat them in the back and tell them it will be okay. How was it working or joining 3 Mice and then going out into what you're currently doing?
Okay, so maybe just a small, slight clarification. I joined Cellulant, not 3 Mice.
Oh.
Yeah, so I joined Ken Deroge when he had already started Cellulant. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Cellulant was how many months when you joined?
About 6 months plus.
Yeah. This is the problem. I'm confusing dates.
It's all hazy, yeah?
Yeah, it's so. How was it? How was the beginning of Cellulant, and what were you guys doing?
So how many guys know Cellulant today here? What do you guys know of Cellulant? Momani, Loki, maybe you can just give them, and Kirui. What do you know of Cellulant? Anybody? Mula. Yep. Mula, yay. What else? What do you know? I mean,
Ringtone.
Ringtones. Who's that guy? How old are you? No, seriously. What's your name? Dennis. Good stuff, Dennis. Actually, when I joined Cellulant, the business was what was called those days value-added services provider. Very big name. When I went for the interview, developer role, I could not understand what the hell a value-added service provider was, and Ken was talking about this shortcode. I had never interacted with the shortcode. This was in 2004, but I got the gist of what the business was trying to do. And the business at the time was primarily offering SMS services, two-way SMS, and also ringtones. And at that time, ringtones was not music, MP3 tracks, etc. In 2004, the primary mode of ringtones, they used to be called monophonic tones. Anyone knows what those were? So okay, you need to be on the stage. So monophonic tones basically were tones. At that time, there were the phones that are nowadays called, I suppose, kabambes, right? Yeah, the phones that are tiny like this, and they don't have internet connection. And the tones were, they had a flat thing. That was actually what we used to sell. But it was hot because it provided Kenyans with a flavor of local music, as opposed to the standard Nokia or Alcatel or Sagem or whatever it is, ringtones. We actually offered local music in monophonic tones. And also two SMS service was hot. So basically all these corporates that wanted either a shortcode to be able to get their consumers to send them messages or also bulk SMS. So some of the older generations remember us, like I suppose Jessica, as guys who used to provide with developers those days with free SMS testing credits. So whenever they would develop the applications, they would integrate, they would connect to the APIs, would give them 100, 500, 1,000 free SMS credits for them to develop the applications that needed SMS. And it was a very different time. I mean, so aside from the monophonic stuff, I mean, one thing we take for granted today, internet connectivity. I mean, we really take it for granted. No, there was internet connectivity, for sure.
2007.
No, there was internet connectivity in 2004, but the internet was very different. It's like what you have today is a forest cake, black forest cake. What we had was buffalo, you know, like a bread. So what do I mean? What do you remember, Conrad, about the internet then?
There used to be, there was one ISP, or rather, all traffic had to go through the government. Something called JumboNet, which at some point had a 75% packet loss rate. I.e., when you ping, 4 of those responses would be fail, then one would go through. So connectivity was dog slow at the time. Dog slow.
You mean connectivity not on the mobile? Mobile?
No, not on the mobile, yeah. Not on the mobile. So you see now, she shouldn't be on the stage. No, we had internet. Fady.
Hold on. Yo, ladies first, right? I need to tell my story, Jimmy. All right, what were you saying?
Well, to be totally honest, Jess is, that was like the 4th wave. The mobile wave was like the 4th one. Before now we go into all this blend of cloud and stuff like that. That's the earliest I remember of Jess. 2000 and, you're on a stage somewhere.
2007.
2007, yeah. You're on a
At
stage.
Alliance Francais.
Yes,
That's where
yes,
we met.
yes. Yeah.
Oh my God. Just to tell you my story, I am tending towards old school, all right? The first line of code, or when I came across a computer, was actually when I was in primary school. My mom got my sister and I a Commodore 64. So go and check out what that is. It was a computer where we used to play. I used to play a game addict, right? And then I started manipulating around with MS-DOS, not Linux, not Mac at that time, but DOS. And then I started writing my first line of code and doing a bit of admin when I was in high school. I mean, a lot of MS-DOS commands and things like that, right? Line of code, HTML. I hard-coded websites, hard-coded. Like I built a lot of websites for customers way back in high school. Wanted to become an aeronautical engineer and a pilot. And then I met a lady called Dr. Kate Gitau when I was around 18, 19, exploring to go abroad and studying here. And she was the first computer scientist in this country. Check out Dr. Kate Gitau. She's called Flakes. She writes that column Flakes. And she told me about, she asked me what I was curious about. And she's like, you ask a lot of questions. You should probably do like computer science at the University of Nairobi. I actually got an opportunity to study in Canada, all right? So applied to University of Nairobi and got into University of Nairobi. That's when I started coding in C and C++ and Java eventually, and Delphi.
Yes.
So HTML was like a breeze for me at that point in time. And the story of mobile will come as we go. Work, actually, I became like a hardcore mobile enthusiast, mobile developer in university and started teaching myself mobile programming. That's when we used to ask, the University of Nairobi School of Computing were asking for SMS credits. And that's where Cellulant came in 2004, 2005 to give us credits to actually do SMS gateways, applications. So in this day and age, don't take this in a bad way. When I see like a basic SMS app, Android app, I'm like, so what else? What else can you do? Been that done, right? So
Pressure.
challenging you guys.
Pressure.
Sure.
By the way, we were meant to get an internet connection cable in 1998. It's called the SAT3, or the safe cable. It landed in South Africa. Our politics didn't allow. There was a minister in charge of regional development then said if it landed, he was going to control the gateway. This is 1998. Okay, so the cable went to Madagascar, then went to India. So that's how India literally leapfrogged us. The Eastern African coast was the last coast to be connected to fiber optic in 2007, the Teams cable. So it is from then that most of us understand what ICT is all about. But before we get to that point, there was a graph done. Were you guys involved in the .com crash? Did you get the effect?
The effect?
Yeah.
Not really. I don't think so. I don't know.
Life was just a crash. Continuous crash.
Yeah, because what happens? There was the bubble, the .com bubble, and there are some guys here who got involved. Africa Online got involved in that, and then of course the 3 Mice also got involved. Then it's a long story, but they were a big part of what was happening then. And now breakaways like the Cellulant come from that story. And the reason why I'm saying it's very hard to understand what life was like without fiber and without the mobile. Who remembers how a phone booth looks like? Who used one? You guys are not doing badly. Yeah, this is not bad. Did you ever use the one at Kencom?
The ones.
The ones. Who remembers how to make a free call? You guys are hackers. You guys are bad.
It used to be called freaking.
Yeah, freaking
With a PH.
Yes.
But let me give you an example, of the internet, just for the guys who never experienced it. So the internet at that time was a kind of internet where you would log onto your terminal and log into your server, which is not at your office now. Your server is probably located, whatever it is, not on DigitalOcean or AWS. We couldn't afford to connect. Actually, at that time, we hadn't actually, I think 2006 is when they launched.
Yeah.
We already started hosting stuff there. But it was the kind of connection where you're on your terminal, you would type something, whether it's a ls or an SQL query or whatever it is. And then that command that took you 5 seconds to type would actually take so long to finish typing. You would actually go, I used to be a smoker those days, go take a cigarette break and then come back and then look at your results. Seriously. Did you ever experience that? Yeah, Conrad.
Well.
Okay, no, I'm sure there's 1 or 2 guys who remember that, yeah.
Dial-up connections.
Oh, yes.
Who remembers dial-up connections? What Faizal is talking about, if you're on a dial-up connection, at least you are fortunate to have a client-server model. Yeah. The rest of us, to just emails.
So just how many know the speed of a dial-up connection without the 75% packet loss? It was 56 kbps, right? And that's kilo bits.
56
kilobits per second. So divide that by 8, and you have your speed. Remove 75% if it connects, and that's how it was. So
we used to have a dial-up connection at home, and this was 2005 and 6 at home. And I remember, like, it was connected to the phone, plug in your network cable, and you could hear the phone. You could actually make a cup of tea, come back, and then sit down. Then you'd be connected. That's how.
And you could tell. Yeah. Just connected.
Connected.
There's a whole sign language.
Even jumping the gun, before the phone, you have to plug in what is called a modem.
Oh.
So your computer to your modem to your phone, and then you dial.
Exactly. And the guys who had it good had something called Leased Lines. So that was basically a phone connected to, was it Telcom back then? Jumbonet, which was on 24 hours. So those are now the big offices and the cyber cafes, which is how I think most of us learned what we do. We'd go to a cyber cafe because there was no internet at home or anything. We'd go to a cyber cafe with a bunch of floppy disks and try and download some tutorials or try and talk to guys on forums and try and understand how are these things done. We would never dream of a community like this where you can share ideas and get backup of, hey, I'm stuck, what do I do? So you'd really try and figure stuff out by yourself. You get those floppy disks, split your tutorials into 2 or 3 floppy disks, each 1.38 MB. If you had a file more than 1 or 2 MBs, you're in trouble. Go to your neighbors or home or wherever you had a computer, try and figure out how to do these things. And the worst thing is when mobile phones were becoming a bit more common. You all know that sound that a mobile phone makes if it rings next to the speaker? If that rang next to a floppy disk, forget it. Forget it. So this is the reality of how difficult it was to access information that we were very hungry to get to learn and to figure out how to do things. So you have it good now. You have it good.
So what areas of technology would you say you're in now, considering where you're coming from? What are you doing nowadays, Fady? I'm lost. You said civil engineering then?
Yeah, so with time I feel that intelligence diminishes very fast, and I've regressed quite a bit. Now I simply do what we call design, which is very inclusive in your world of tech. It's very inclusive in enterprise. It's very inclusive in sort of the human sciences. So yeah, that's where I am now, the world of design.
Jess, what are you into now, considering where you're coming from?
Oh man, I pivoted away from mobile application development quite a bit. I think like 10 years later, I'm doing something totally different. I'm more into business development, partnerships, but I still do keep up with development. In the last 3 years, I've gone back to software development, building. 5 years ago, I developed a great passion for blockchain, but that's kind of evolved more to machine learning and chatbots. So right now, what I do at Brave is we connect talent to companies. So using a lot of psychology, natural language processing to identify a person's passion, and companies who want to find great talent using that. So yeah, I pivoted quite a bit, and I just realized in my career growth is, I call it like intentional serendipity, meeting the right people at the right time. I think probably Faizal met me immediately I finished university, right? I was really shy. I was very shy. I wouldn't be able to come.
What? You were shy?
Very much, very much.
Wow.
Jimmy, when you saw me on the stage 2007, I was extremely nervous. One of my mentors and supervisors kind of like saw I had a knack for business development and public speaking. So I've tended more to business development, growth, partnerships, but still keeping in touch with software development specialists, chatbots. Yeah.
Okay. Faizal?
Mine has been a bit of a, well, I don't know what kind of a curve you'll describe it, but I started off as a coder. A few years later, I realized, so when I joined, I was the only coder in the company. I was the only developer. As reality would take it, then you're responsible for not just coding, but then everything. There was no support department. There was no infrastructure guy. There's nobody to fix anything, even support. So over time, then naturally, I took up more responsibility. I became leader of technology, so CTO, at one point handling everything technology, projects, products, roadmap, infrastructure, uptime, SLAs, customer meetings, etc., and sales as well, obviously. But about 3 years ago, plus minus, I noticed that it became necessary for me to focus more on future-looking roadmap, innovation, the next set of products. So my role has actually shifted more to products. That's why I'm in charge of products today in Cellulant.
Okay.
And the CTO role is, we're looking for a CTO. So if you know anybody, if you think you're hot enough,
Including me.
no, really. So my role today is primarily figuring out what is the next set of propositions we need to think about, build for, plan for. Where do we roll them out? Because we're offering services in quite a few countries. Yeah, so it's been quite a shift.
Okay.
Yeah, the last line of code I wrote, I remember very clearly, it was in, you still code, you look like you still code, right? Yeah. I remember the last line of code was in 2012, just before Christmas break. And we were preparing for Christmas break, and we had just taken some customers live. Those of you who don't know, actually, Cellulant does not just do ringtones. We started off with ringtones. Today, we are one of the largest payments and mobile banking aggregator on the continent. We serve customers in 33 countries in Africa. So we're known actually mostly for payments than ringtones today. So we're just taking a client live, a mobile banking customer live about 2, 3, 4 weeks prior to this, 19th December, 20th December.
Yeah.
And we were shit scared that shit, what's going to happen? You know what happens is teething issues. The reality of just a system going live, you always have teething issues.
On Christmas.
Yeah, on Christmas. So, and at that time, the monitoring systems that we had, I felt they're not going to be sufficient to give us all the alerts that we needed in case anything goes wrong. So I called a colleague, Alex. I remember I told him, come sit next to me. I have this idea of a monitoring system. Just watch as I code. We did those peer coding.
Yeah.
So he watched over me as I coded it, and in one afternoon, I built this thing called DBQM. It was a monitoring system. Well, a script, really. It was a bunch of things that I wrote that actually worked for the business for about 2 to 3 years before someone came and said, you know what, we think we can do a good job. So that was the last line of code, and I'm not sure whether I'm actually ready to go back. I actually don't think.
Conrad.
It's been a long time.
Me, I code even today. In fact, 30 minutes ago, I was in fact coding, but but I'm in charge of the product development and roadmap for the company, as well as the general strategy. So that is.
What does your company do? Because you haven't told us anything. I mean, I'm suspicious.
Well, I am an early businessman.
General enterprise.
But we write software for capital markets. So think investments and banking. So I've been doing that for about 8 years, and we're in about 7, 8 countries now. So that's what we do.
I'm only in this country. The thing that I do, yeah, very impressive, very impressive. So, any questions?
Actually, before you ask questions, maybe I can ask something. All of us obviously have SIM cards. Who paid more than 50 shillings for their SIM card? More than 100 shillings for their SIM card? More than 5 SOK for their SIM card? More than a G? More than 2 Gs? More than 3 Gs? Yeah. When I bought my cancel line, my cancel line, I gave the guy 4K.
What?
He gave me back 5 SOK. And he gave me the tin. And he told me, now you need airtime. So, what is the cheapest airtime you have bought? Must be 10 shillings. At the time, the cheapest airtime for cancel, the only 3 denominations, the cheapest was 6 SOK. So I gave him back the 5 SOK. When I added 100 shillings, and he gave me the card, then he told me, now, when you load, you won't get the 6 SOK. There's what is called a loading fee. So once you load it like this, you're going to lose 80 bob. So you start with 520. And then, that airtime, you need to use it within the month. And you pay per minute. And per minute, you round up. If you say hello and hang up, that's a minute. So, hapo ndo tulianza.
I'd even forgotten that story.
Any questions from the floor? You guys have decided you have an eminent panel of old people. Okay, let me go over there. I think I have all the mics. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Bran. This question is to my friend or mentor, whatever. Yeah. You said that you've moved from programming to thinking and maybe design, and not design, but thinking the way forward. You see, like creating ideas or something like that. Could you maybe tell us more, or maybe the core parts about it? I'd really appreciate.
The core parts about what? The decision to move, or the decision to change, or
Not the decision to change, but
this new thing that I do?
yeah, this new thing that you do.
This new thing that I do.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good one. So I moved to what I said. I moved away from technology to product, and the two go hand in hand. But product is basically determining what needs to be, in my context, it's determining based on what we've chosen to do as a business, our strategy, the markets we're in, the partners we have, the customers, what they expect of us, our growth plans, etc. What should we build? What products should we build? How should we roll them out? With which partners or which customers first? In which markets? How should we price? How will it? And our business model is a bit complex, I would say, because we have quite a few. We have a multitude of products. So we run what is called an ecosystem. It's a platform. It's really a platform of all these suites of services, from bulk SMS, we still do that, USSD, but also payment gateway, and also we do offer mobile banking to banks. So we have quite a multitude of products and services serving a multitude of clients, partners, and customers, etc. So it's to determine what should we build, when should we roll it out, for which customers, why are we building it, etc. And then technology would figure out, obviously, what is the best way, how should that stuff be delivered. That's the difference between product and technology. Does that answer your question?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm James. I have two questions. So the first one is, there seems to be sort of a lack of career growth path, especially here in, let's say, Africa, or generally in the third world, whereby you find that as people grow older, they tend to move from programming. But if you look at the Western world, and for many people who sort of pioneered most of the things that we are enjoying now, you'll find that there are so many people who are a bit old. They're if you look at the cloud architects, if you look at the guys who are building the new infrastructure and technologies that we use, you find that they're still doing it. So my question will be, what is the thing that you are missing? Because it sort of becomes a limitation. There are so many things that you guys learned that we will probably never get to appreciate, because we never get to sit down with you. Then the second question is for the lady. Still the same thing, that the more you progress, the more you'll find that women are moving out of development per se. So it's okay, I know there's that conceptual thing that we tend to think that they can't do hardcore coding. They'll probably move towards QA or project management. But what is it that creates that kind of environment, and what can we do to mitigate?
All right. I think I can take both questions on the career growth part, since Brave deals directly with that. I think for talent like you, it took me a while. I took about nine to 12 months before I joined university because I was very confused, like the gentleman here before. I mean, everyone's confused at that age of what to do. So I tried to understand the industry trends, right? And what I was passionate about and try and map that. So when you have opportunities like this at like DevCraft, people around your network, maximize these kind of opportunities to network and build relationships. So any of them can become like your friend, your mentor, and like keep you abreast of industry trends. I think if I didn't meet Dr. Kate Gitau, I don't know if I would actually have studied computer science. I probably would have gone off to be a pilot or did aeronautical engineering and probably have been out of Kenya. I really, for me, it was a self-discovery that was really important. And what I've seen in this industry, being at the iHub from 2010 to 2013, just the growth of this tech ecosystem. Mobile was the trending thing when I did mobile boot camps in 2008 and 9 at Strathmore University, and everyone went for that trend. So don't make a quick rush to like, if everyone's doing mobile, let's go to mobile. If everyone's doing agile, let's go to agile. I think what you need to do is understand what the global trends are and then narrow it down to regional, what Kenya is doing. If you want to work like for a company like Cellulant, get to understand them, get to understand their payments. They have products like Mula right now, what their technology stack is, what their culture fit is, what their work style fit. Then you'll actually get to know what kind of person you are and where you want to be. That's in terms of career path. And also have your career, your goal. I think I've mentored a couple of you here, like sitting in the front row, and what I say is like map out your career for the next, or your personal growth for the next 3 to 5 years. Where do you want to be? Have like 3 objectives that you want to achieve in life, right? And make sure that everything that you do in a year, you're kind of like getting to that journey. With regards to women not coding, I can say that the trend and the percentage is much better than it was in 2007, like 10 years later. That percentage has actually increased to 15% with initiatives like Akira Chicks. A couple of us who are part of that group, Lillian here was part of that group. The initiative was actually started to keep women in technology, and there are women actually undergoing training for mobile and software development that are actually placed at some of your companies here as interns. What I think is it's based on, I wouldn't narrow it down to women only, because we work with talent, we work with a lot of talent, and it's both men and women that actually tend to actually move out of the programming sphere. Like look at Faizal has moved out of coding for the last 6 years, and I think it tends to be more of what the person is surrounded by. Right? Like I was surrounded a lot by management consultants, researchers, and then starting the iHub, I had to learn to do operations and business development. So you're put in circumstances where you have to learn other things, and you tend to see that you actually enjoy it. So you get into either becoming an agile coach or a project manager. I can attest that there are still women coders, but that number needs to increase, and thank you for acknowledging that. I think we need to do something to actually keep women coding. I think Lillian, who's seated right in front of me, is still a coder. She's like the data manager and data scientist at the lab she runs, and she still codes as far as I know. I'm still doing a bit of coding, so keep that coding. If you're passionate about coding, keep it going.
And another thing I would like to add to what Jess is saying, the flip side is to also understand that part of the problem is we are suffering from measuring ourselves with Silicon Valley. So as good Kenyans, we have this demand for the best thing now, and we are not thinking about the infrastructure that has to be put in place. Things like policy, things like the education system has to change. What? Come on. The education system has to change, and the stuff that Cellulant and Faizal have been building is actually infrastructures. We are still yet to think of innovative stuff that we can build on top of Cellulant. If you think about what Conrad is building, software for capital markets, he's not told us the whole story, but it's okay. You can talk to him after this. But those platforms are the ones that we actually need in place, because if you look at a place like the US, guys build platforms and people are now coming up with all sorts of things. And that's the thing we also need to recognize, that you need to make sure your timing is right, because that's going to be your biggest thing. It's going to be your timing. Some of us who have been ahead of the curve, we built products that, we built a game that needed in-app purchasing, but then Google Pay didn't exist. So there are some things that you must actually time and wait for. So we need to balance both sides. While you are developing your talent on one side, you also need to understand that there are some things that need to be in place. If you want to build those things, if not, at least then, so that we all get going. But for me, it's amazing. 10 years and we have this. Before we used to meet at cyber cafes, and us 2-3 guys, and because I'm looking and seeing somebody's is typing something on Notepad. Can you imagine how that at 7 o'clock at night or some funny hour? So that's the kind of thing that I would urge us to also think about infrastructure-wise. How can we build platforms that the rest of us can eat off, so to speak? That's the thing I suppose we are at now.
Maybe just a quick one to add on that. So that's a very good question, and I think one of the problems, you can blame the environment, education system, and so on and so forth, but we need to also recognize hata sisi ni shida, because most of us approach things. Many of us are like, hustle. There's a difference between a job and a career. So writing code is a job. If you approach it as a job, you will write your code until the next shiny thing comes up. But if it's a career is a continuous thing. If you decide, I want my career to be a software developer, I want to be the best software developer in the world, and there's nothing stopping you. The examples I always give, these companies like AVG and ESET and so on, they're in weird countries like Estonia and Hungary and places most of us can't find in a map. But they produce the best security software. And there's nothing special about Estonia and Hungary and so on. It's just that the people there decide to apply themselves. So there's no reason why a guy in Nairobi or in Kibera cannot be the best software developer in the world, which means he's always learning the craft and improving himself and investing in himself and learning. So if you want to have a career in infrastructure or networking or whatever, you can't just do your certificate, Cisco, CCNA, whatever it is, and then you stop there. You have to continuously invest in yourself and learn the industry, learn the craft, learn the tools, because they're always changing. One of the reasons I keep telling people is you don't hire a Java guy or a PHP guy. There's always a shiny thing, as you will know. Now it is what? Node.js. Last year it was Ruby on Rails. The year before it was Python, Django. The year before it was PHP. There'll always be a new shiny thing. So if your claim to fame is knowing the syntax of Ruby, then you are dead tomorrow. But a guy who understands the fundamentals, whatever language it is, there must be a thing for handling forms, there must be a thing for databases, there must be a thing for security. Now the syntax, or how to get it, those you can Google, but the underlying things, you know what to find, especially as you improve. As you write websites, the guys who have done it, so mobile applications, after a while the things you expect, even if they say Android 40, there has to be, there are things you expect to be in a serious mobile operating system. Even if you don't know what it is, there has to be a thing for security, there has to be a thing for managing forms, a thing for memory. The nitty-gritties, you don't need to know them. You expect to find them there. So if you want a career, whatever it is, not just technology, you need to apply yourself to whatever it is you want to do and continuously refine and continuously learn, continuously evolve. Then you'll have a career in whatever it is you want to do.
Jess, you're burning.
One comment. Okay. I just wanted to add on to that. So come and see me later. It's really important to focus. Focus is key.
All right.
In closing,
In closing, I want to ask them what they do when they are not coding. It's important to balance your life. Work-life balance, eh? Conrad, what do you do when you're not coding, considering you were coding like a few minutes ago?
Biker.
Biker?
You ride a bike. Bicycle.
Motorcycle.
Oh, you know, biker is a pair of shorts. You know, so. I'm sorry. Faizal, what do you do when you're not product developing?
I mean, by the time I finish with work, I have to balance with my 4 women in my life, not 4 wives, my wife and my 3 kids. Yeah, so I'm going camping this weekend.
Oh, excellent. Jess?
I do music. I play a bass guitar, and I'm in a band. And like Conrad, I am also a biker.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Fady?
Mine are actually biker shorts. So I think between family time and just relaxing, the idea for me is to try and have work-life separation so that you're able to fully rest, play hard and work hard as much as you can.
I'm learning how to play the guitar. One day when I grow up, I'll be like Jess. I can do it. 5-string bass, 4 which?
4 and 5.
Hey, don't joke. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Please give another round of applause. Thank you very much. The guys who are not at the front, you missed it. You missed everything. I don't know. Thank you.